I will be talking about my magazine and how it uses codes and conventions to attract target audience in its design. So first of all, it has a masthead here, which is from a cross, and is quite bold. This attracts the audience. It catches their eye, and it's a convention of the magazine industry to have a very big and bold masthead that makes an impact. Above is the tagline, which shows us what will be inside the magazine. So interviews, gossip, and reviews, and also has a statement: UK's best pop magazine. Is a convention of magazines is to have a tagline which shows off what the magazine will contain as well as an exaggeration. There's the main image here is the direct address as the subject is looking directly at the reader, and we can see a microphone in their hands which links to the pop genre. It's a coding convention to have a main image in your magazine which shows off the main subject of your magazine. We can also see the main cover line, which is Katie, A Star Returns, which shows us who the person in the main image is, as well as what the article will be about. We can see here there are cover lines here which give brief tellings about the stories that will be inside. Coding convention is to have cover lines in there which attract audiences that will want to see the stories inside. We see more cover lines here. Here is a puff which is very brightly coloured, so it links to the genre of pop, which is also very brightly coloured and uses very bright and impactful colours like pink and red. We can see that it is anchors to the main image as well as the main cover line, which is the coding convention of the magazine industry. In my draft, we can see that there are some differences and some similarities to my cover. The masthead, although similar in font and colour, was changed in the positioning as it was impractical to do so in Photoshop, and while it was visually interesting, it wasn't I found trouble doing it in Photoshop, so I decided to keep it to the more standard and way of having it across and near the top of the page. You can see the tagline is above here, which is what I included in my final cover, and it's a coding convention to have a tagline at the very top. The main image is anchored by the puff and the main cover line, which is also what I did here. And we can see, although they're different in posing, the draft image and the final main image, they both contain a microphone and show off the subject's face. So there are cover lines here which are positioned similar to how they are here, and they are a coding convention of the magazines. They all link to the music genre and pop. I was originally going to include a secondary image as well as a secondary cover line, but I decided not to in the end. So it would make my cover too cluttered, so I decided to just keep it my main image and main cover line. You can see the standard barcode here, an issue number, which I've also included in my magazine. Here we can see difference between my magazine and a professional pop magazine. They both have very similar colour palettes, very bright and impactful and bold, and linked to genre pop, which often features very bright pinks and reds. They both have a very impactful and bold masthead with a catchy title. Mine is The Buzz and theirs is We Love Pop. There is a main image which is anchored by a cover line, and as well as there are other various other cover lines around the magazine. This magazine contains more pictures than my magazine, but I decided to go for a more minimalistic look for my magazine. And there are also the standard codes and conventions such as a tagline, barcode, issue number, which I also contain in my ones. The contents page also follows many codes and conventions which will attract my key target audience of white teenage girls. As we can see here, the masthead is very prevalent here and at the top of the page and will instantly draw someone's eye. There are very bright colours which link highly to the genre of pop, which is what my magazine is part of. You can see the very bright pinks and blues and greens. These are all very visually appealing and catch the audience's eye immediately. Here we have a contacts section which contains many social medias that the young target audience are popular with the young target audience. Our young target audience will use these social medias such as Twitter and Snapchat, and these will make the magazine seem very relevant to them, which will encourage them to buy it. The coding convention of a magazine contents page to include a contacts us page. As you can see here, these are just parts of the magazine that have been listed in the contents section. They give us a small snippet of what will be included in the article. For example, we can see on page 16, it says, hot duo Lydia and Olivia spill on their fave moments of 2016. And here in the picture here, we can see that picture of Lydia and Olivia are anchored by the word in page 16, which shows that shows us what the two girls look like and gives us a hint about what the article will be about. It's a coding convention of the magazine industry and contents page to have it all anchored by both the content section here and pictures. There is also a coding convention is to include a sneak peek at what happens next issue, as we've done here, which shows us the date and also what is contained in there. Also includes the issue number and date, which is also a very common coding convention. My contents draft compared to my final contents page, we can see there are some similarities and there are also some differences. At first, my masthead does not appear on my draft, and instead replaced with contents page with just the words contents instead. That does feature here, but it's a lot smaller, and we decided to keep the masthead here just so it stands out and also catches people's eyes immediately. And so here it's similar set out here, as in there's one bigger image at the top here, and then two smaller images below. They're both anchored by page numbers, which link to the pages seen here. There's a contact us section here, although the final version is a lot bigger. Also, there is a picture of the main article, Katie, here, which features here, which does not feature on my draft. I decided to include this picture so it would show the importance of the main article. My draft also does not show the sneak peek of the upcoming issue. Here is a letter from the editor, which I originally was going to include, but I decided to keep that out in favour of a more in detail contact us section, as well as the picture of Katie. It's a coding convention of the magazine industry and contents to have a letter from the editor, but I decided to not include that so I could have a picture of Katie, and the pictures are often more eye-catching to an audience and more likely to attract them. And as Katie is a teenage girl, much like the teenagers in that I'm aiming for, it will attract. See the difference between a professional contents page and my own contents page. As we can see here, they have their masthead here, although mine is more prominent here at the centre. They also have images which are anchored by page numbers, which link to the page numbers here. Although their summaries are in a lot less detail than mine, although they do include more of them. As we can see here, they include posters that the audience can potentially that the magazine includes. My magazine does not include this, but it's a coding convention of the magazine industry to include these. As we hear, there are smaller images, and the bigger the image, the more important it is in the magazine. My magazine also follows this, as the images of Katie and Lydia and Olivia are bigger than the ones of Gareth and Stephanie. This shows that those stories are more important than the other two, and it's a coding convention to have this in your magazine. They, however, do not have a contact us section, nor do they have a sneak peek of what will happen. They do, however, have a letter from the editor, which also is a coding convention of the audience. It makes the magazine feel more personal. See my double-page spread. It follows many coding conventions, as well as not following a few of them, but it follows them mainly. Here we can see a bright masthead, which shows A Star Returns, which also features on my front cover. Here's a coding convention of DPS is to have a big masthead which gives us a clue of what the story is about. There is also a stand first here, which gives a quick summary of what the story will be about, as well as a byline which shows off the author. These are codes and conventions of magazines, and often can be seen in lots of articles. We'll also have a star here, which links to the star featured in the title, which catches the reader's eye and encourages them to read as it's quite bright and colourful. The article is a free-flowing article, and which is quite common in which is quite common in magazines. They allow for quite a personal story, which is attractive to readers, as they will want to get a very hands-on and intimate reading of the interviewee and the interviewer. There's a small fact file here, which isn't a coding convention, but I decided to include it as it's quite fun and it's quite different than anything else. We also have a caption for the picture, which is a big picture of the artist, which is featured in the double page spread, and that is a coding convention. There are also 2 pull quotes here, which are codes and conventions, as well as the capital I here has been made bigger, which is also very common in articles to make it seem quite professional. The whole story is written in quite a professional way, and is written in a way that allows the interviewee and the interviewer to seem very likeable to the audience, as well as touching on issues that may not have been found in a Q&A questionnaire. It also does more descriptions, which makes the audience feel like they are right there. It gives us direct quotes, such as, "One of my favourite moments was when I performed at the O2." And that is a common coding convention to include quotes in your DPS. And looking at my draft and my final of DPS, we can see there are quite a few differences. My draft contained more images, and the masthead took up the entire first page. I later decided to not include this so I can include more of the text and make it seem a lot more professional. Here we can see there is not a lot of text, but there is a picture, which I did decide to include, as well as a caption, which I also decided to include. This is a coding convention of DPSs, and is often featured in magazines. I did include the fact file and made it more, and include the pull quote as well, as making the story itself more detailed and feature more than it does in my draft article. Also, there was no stand first originally in my draft, but I included that as a coding convention into my final one. As this looks a lot more professional, it makes the magazine seem of high quality, and this will attract target audiences, as they want a magazine of good quality and not one that does not follow codes and conventions. This is also quite colourful and stands out compared to my draft, which is quite flat. Looking at here, we can compare a professional DPS to my DPS. The professional DPS does have a main image of the subject, which mine also does, and they're both in a similar pose of kneeling down. The title takes up and the picture take up a large section of the DPS. In fact, the whole first page, which my magazine does not, so I wanted to include more of the article. In here, the picture takes centre stage, and that is a coding convention to have a big picture, as it stands out and attracts fans of that artist to the magazine, so they can see pictures of their favourite star. I did include a big image, but not as big as this one, as I felt like the article was more important in the end. Here you can see they have a similar the enlarged capital, which at the start of the article, which I also included. That is a coding convention, as well as a pull quote, which I also included. Here there is a stand first and a byline, which is a coding convention, and I also included that in my magazine. So we can see that this one it does appeals to target audiences, although it would not appeal to my target audience today, as it's quite not very colourful and do not have lots and lots of information about the star, which mine does. It also has a hard time standing out due to the muted colour palette, which does not link to pop However, mine has quite bright, which links to the genre of pop easily, and bright colours can be seen as a coding convention of a magazine as it attracts the audience.